Good morning to today's episode of the St. Augustine Chronicles. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm excited to talk with former St. Augustine Police Department Chief Jennifer Michaux. Jennifer's made history, so she's badass. So I'm really looking forward to letting her tell her story today. But before we talk to Jen, we just need to do a couple plugs. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in property in St. Augustine? Trust 97 Park, your local residential and commercial real estate experts. From historic homes to business spaces and investment properties, 97 Park delivers market knowledge, smart strategy, and personalized service every step of the way. And when you're ready to make your move, contact me, Karen Zander, directly at 904-297-3471. 97 Park, real estate done right here in St. Augustine. And our next sponsor is Kookaburra Coffee. Proudly founded in St. Augustine in 2012, the Kookaburra is your local home for fresh roasted coffee and made-from-scratch baked goods. From legendary Aussie meat pies to scones and sweet pastries, everything is crafted to pair perfectly with their signature coffees. Whether you love a smooth flat white, a bold Aussie iced coffee, or their famous Honey Badger latte. With multiple locations throughout St. Augustine, the Kookaburra is part of the community and part of your daily routine, from morning commutes to weekend strolls. The Kookaburra, Aussie coffee, St. Augustine local. You probably remember when they had just that one little tiny shop.
When you said the year, I was like, wow, they've been here that long.
I know. I have them on. They're so cool.
Yep. Time is flying. Yeah.
One little tiny shop.
Every time you turn around, there's one like in Nocatee.
I know.
At the hospital. I was there. I was like, I left my friend. I'm like, oh, I got to go get a coffee.
I'm so
I was
proud
so
of
excited
them.
they were there.
Yeah, they've done such a wonderful job.
It's so good.
Their service is so good. Their customer
people.
service. So, Jennifer Michaux, I'm so excited to let you tell your story. Thank you for coming on.
My story. I feel like everybody's heard it, though, so it's kind of filling in the blanks of what people don't know.
Well, maybe they haven't heard it the way we're going to talk about it.
Oh, Lordy.
So, you've told me, I know that you weren't originally from here. You're from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Right? Just like I am.
Yes.
I feel like people in the Midwest are very much... we do what we say we're going to do, and we work really hard, and we're no bullshit, and
sometimes
we just
they get you in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm the queen of that. But the stereotype of Midwestern people as down to earth, that really is true.
It is.
We are very much down to earth, and if we say something, that you can count on that. If we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it.
Right. And don't ask me my opinion because you're going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. And also women there are, like, I grew up in a really small farm community in Wisconsin, and women were out in the barn on the farm doing just as much work as the men.
Right.
Like, I came to the South, and this is no disrespect to anyone from the South, but it was really strange to me. I mowed my lawn. My husband was traveling all over for work, and so I mowed my lawn every week, and I had a woman who grew up in the South stop me one time, one of my neighbors, and she said, I really don't like it that you mow your lawn because I don't want my husband to know that I could mow the lawn.
My neighbor still doesn't mow her lawn, and her husband points it out all the time that I'm out there. Jen's mowing the lawn. She's that's nice. She's born and raised in Florida, so she's like, that's nice. She enjoys it. I do.
I have an aunt who's in her 90s, and she still does her own lawn. She doesn't have a riding mower. She does her whole lawn herself.
Wow, that's awesome.
So tell me about where you're from.
So I grew up right outside of Chicago. I was actually born in Chicago in Cicero. And then I have an older sister who grew up in the inner city. So my parents decided they were going to make a little change with that. And we were going to grow up in a suburb.
But Cicero's got a little bit of a reputation.
Yeah, Blues Brothers, you think of that. Yeah. So we moved out to suburbs, and I grew up in, it's called Hoffman Estates. And so it was next to the largest mall in the United States back then. Mm-hmm. So it was very cool. Went to work right away, working at the mall at 15,
The mall culture, too.
Yeah.
That was the place to be.
It was the place to be.
You got seen, how.
So, I grew up there and went to college. I swam in high school competitively.
Oh, I swam, too.
Yeah, and I played water polo.
What stroke did you swim?
I did freestyle. I did the 500 freestyle. I was a long-distance swimmer.
I did backstroke. Backstrokers are always tall. So.
Yeah.
I should have been able to swim fly, but I cannot swim fly.
Yeah, never liked it. Never liked it.
I can drown swimming.
Or the IM, no, doing all four of them at once.
No, I can't do it either.
No. I would always get confused of what order it would go in. I'd have to think about it when they would make me do it. I was like, okay, what order is this again?
I swam. I was on relay teams too, medley and then free relay. And one race, I said to my teammates on the relay team, I think I can swim backstroke just as fast as I can swim freestyle. And
Wow.
they're like, no. And I said, I think I can. And I knew the rules for free relay allowed me to swim you can swim any stroke because it's freestyle.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to swim backstroke on this. And I was the lead off. And they said, no, you cannot do that. I said, no, I think I can. I think I can swim backstroke just as fast as I can swim free. And so I did. I flipped over after I dove in and I swam backstroke for that leg. And so it was a big controversy. Like, do we need to disqualify the team? And then finally they realized, no, she can swim any stroke she wants. And I did keep up.
I did keep up. Yeah, and that's before the turn changed. You actually had to touch the wall. Where now you can do a flip turn type thing. Yeah. It's a swam, and then water polo is my kind of thing. I tried out for the U.S. national team.
Did you really?
Yeah. I played water polo. It wasn't in the Olympic yet, so that wasn't an opportunity. It didn't come in until I think the early '90s.
Yeah, that's
when
so
it became into the Olympics. But yeah, I was out in Colorado Springs playing water polo for the national team. And
so how do you get what's the strength that you need to have for water polo? It's not the same as swimming, right?
No. Have you seen my legs and butt?
Is it?
Yeah, it's all lower body. For like our workouts, we would have to hold a plastic chair over our head and just tread water and not let the legs touch the water to build up your strength.
It must also be super strong core strength, I would think.
Yeah, because you do the egg beater kick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I got to play water polo, and then when I was later, I was in the service and I found it made a Olympic sport. I was like, dang it. I couldn't have been like women any year, 10 years earlier. It seemed like we were always chasing it 10 years earlier if it was only 10 years earlier.
Well, I remember when I was in 7th grade, Title IX had just passed recently. And so that was the first time that we had girls' sports. And my family was big in basketball. My dad was a Division I basketball. He's a legend where I'm from. And so that was the first time that that sports were, I was a swimmer, but in school, that was the first time that sports were available.
Right. Yeah.
And when I was in 6th grade, there were boys' sports always. And so the boys challenged some of the girls to a basketball game during recess. And of course, because I'm so tall, my family was a basketball family. I said, okay, you got to play center. And man, I don't know if we had even scored one basket. It was so bad.
Yeah. That's all right. Look what we did for all the young ladies out there today now.
Yeah.
It started back then.
Yeah, it was so different in sports back then.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit older than you are, though. I'm 62. I don't think you're quite that old, are you?
I just turned 56 last week.
Yeah. So, yeah. Good. Congratulations.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you.
But yeah, it was a different time. Sports were, it wasn't what it is now. I mean, It was still a big deal as a female to be competitive in a sport.
Right. Now we're not going to go down that road, but other people trying to break into our sport.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll not go down that road.
We're kind of done with that now.
Yeah. So I hope. But
thank God.
Yeah.
I'll just say, as a former athlete, no.
Right. No. It's not right.
And you're not going to injure me doing it either.
No. Absolutely not. So yeah. So did that for a while, and then did college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Me too. I feel so sorry for the youth now because they're pressured to know before they get out of high school what they want to do. So much pressure on them now.
Yeah, you have to declare a major right away. We didn't have to declare right away.
Our first 2 years of college was, knowing how to get to the parties and getting all the basics out of the way, making friends.
And that's what it should be.
It was the fun time. And then junior and senior year, okay, it's time
you
to
had to declare.
Serious. Yeah. And now, I mean, they want you to know in high school, they're pressuring them to go to get your college classes out of the way while you're in high school and all this. So
it's sad.
Yeah, we're not mentally ready. So I did college for just about a year and a half, and it was kind of funny because I came home in the middle of the week, and my dad's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I quit school." Yeah, and then it was, "I don't know what free ride you think you are, young lady, But and so they went back and forth, and for a few minutes, and I said I joined the Navy, and then it was.
Did you come from a military family?
No, nobody in my family.
That's unusual.
Yeah, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and
but Navy, water.
Well, it didn't start that way because all recruiting stations are the same. They have all 4 entities.
I don't know anything. Actually.
Okay, when you go into a recruiting station, they're all in there. You got the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, and sometimes they allow the Coast Guard to come inside. But they're all made up the same way. And I actually went into the Marine Corps office because they have the best uniforms. So
and they're also the toughest. So you're competitive.
I went to the Marine Corps office, and that guy was only offering me like office jobs. We can do this, we can do that, and I was like. This doesn't sound like me either. Like, let me back up. When I was in school, I was like, okay, maybe I'll go into the dental field. I like teeth. I like to have good teeth. And then when you're in those classes, you learn that people don't take care of their teeth. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. So then I kind of went I was like, okay, sports medicine. Let's go that way. Athletic, trainers, stuff like that. And it just felt like I was just spinning my wheels and just couldn't figure out. The only thing keeping me there was swimming. I was like, that was the only thing I liked about college.
Was college in the Chicago area?
Yeah. And then I was like, boys and swimming. So that's kind of what made me decide what I was going to do. And everyone asked me, what was it that made that point in my mind where I decided to do it? I don't remember. I don't know if it was just one of those days.
Decision though.
Where I don't remember what happened that I just walked into a recruiting station. I try to think back all the time. So maybe it's just one of those memories I suppressed.
But that's a major decision.
It was a major decision.
Especially not coming from a military family.
Not one person was in the military at all. So then I went across to the Navy and go back to women just breaking into everything. EOD swimmers, women were just starting to get into underwater explosives.
Thank you.
Yeah. Underwater disposal explosives type. So they were just starting to dabble to letting the women in, kind of like going back to G.I. Jane movie, with the Navy SEALs. But
let me so I can't picture that women would be better or worse for that, right? There's nothing that would. Is there something that would have held women back?
Wars, and that's mostly where you were going, to the war zones for the explosive to disarm them.
But the actual skill or physical level to do that, is there something that would have been holding women back?
No, it was just locations. This is before women were allowed on ships, before, women did anything. And so it was they were starting to look into that and rescue swimmers. And they're like, well, wait, you swim? And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're going to let me swim in the Navy? I don't know what that means, but.
Yeah, but I'm qualified.
I'm qualified to do that. And,
how hard can that be?
Yeah. So I found out, if you ever watch we're really going to go back, Officer and Gentleman, all those things they put you through. Yeah, you go through all that. You go through all those water.
Well, the whole idea of what you go through in the military to make it through basic training and all that, I can't grasp it. I'm not from a military family, and I just think I'm astounded that you could just walk into a recruiting station and do that. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, I really wish I could remember what the deciding factor was. Maybe it was after a party and I wasn't in my right mind or something. I always try to think back to when did that snap? When did that happen? And then I was like, well, I'm just going to go do this. Why not? It's not like you can walk away. It's not like college where once you join, you can turn around like, yeah, this isn't for me. So boot camp was actually here in Orlando back then. So I left Chicago now. That's where it is for women now. It's in Great Lakes, right outside of Chicago in the north. And I came down here to Orlando and went through boot camp here.
So when you say for women, was boot camp only with women?
Well, no, there was men and women at our boot camp, but it was segregated.
Yeah.
So there was only 3 places to go to boot camp for the Navy. It was Great Lakes, San Diego, and Orlando.
Is there still something in Orlando? No, because I didn't know that there ever was.
That was kind of near UCF. It was the exit before the stadium. I don't remember what that exit was called, but it's before the Kia Center, that exit before then. And you go out and we go east. And it was before UCF and everywhere. There's this big area. It must have been
a huge facility.
It was huge.
I wonder what it is now.
It was huge. I don't know. It was a long time ago. We already dissolved my age. So this was 36 years ago.
So were people surprised when you told them what you were doing?
Oh, yeah. All my friends know, and none of my friends had military families. I mean, we're that part of Illinois, there was no military installations around there.
Yeah, but
So it
still,
wasn't really a thing.
but there, I don't know. I think the Midwest had a lot of military.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
not
we'll
where
get
you
to
were.
that. Was kind of funny. So I
But was your dad okay with that?
well, yeah, it was too late. I already signed up. Yeah.
Let me ask you,
whoa, wait a minute.
Are you the oldest?
No.
Because that seems like an oldest child thing
No,
to
I
do.
have an older sister.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Yeah, I always say she got the beauty and I got the brains. My sister was a model and all that, so I'm like, yeah, so there's the two of us.
That seems like very much like an older child thing to do. Like,
Right.
I'm going to step up and do this.
Yeah. I was always kind of the wild one, like, you never knew what was going to happen next, I let the parakeet go during the pep assembly in high school. I was always the one. I just went back. I know I'm regressing a little bit. I just went back to my high school last month to speak at an alumni. They invited me back to kind of talk about my journey of how I got where I did in St. Augustine, in the nation's oldest city.
Which is probably not so helpful to younger people because already you're telling me there was not a lot of forethought.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot. That's what I tried to tell them. It's okay. It's okay you don't know. It's
good for you.
Be okay with not knowing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. Because my son went through that in college, that where his friends all knew what they wanted to do, and he would come home going, I don't know what I want to do.
I almost think kids who know what they want to do, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they aren't exploring what they don't know they might
Unless you grew up in a family business and that's what you do.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Still. If I feel kind of bad that kids, like you said, I don't like that they have to declare so early and they have to have this path so young. You can't explore. But I feel like kids who say, no, I want to do this. I just wonder if they later in life are going to go, I never really thought about something else.
Yeah. So, well, back to the recruiting. So get through boot camp. Everything's fine. Go off to A school.
Okay, but get through boot camp. That doesn't seem like it's going to be so easy.
It was.
Tell me what boot camp was like for a female back then.
Well, everybody's a female in there. So it was good being a strong female. I was one of the leaders, the platoon leader and everything.
Because you were just used to training and pushing your body. And
you're just used to it. It got me into a daily routine of what you did every day at a certain time, to include going to the bathroom. You eat, you go to the bathroom, you sleep, you train, and it's just a routine over and over and over. And it's awesome.
Is the stereotype of what boot camp is like, is that what it's really like?
Yeah, it's tough.
Is it like,
yeah, lots of yelling. Like you get the nicknames. I had a little company commander, and she'd call me Hightower because I was tall. Or I am tall. It was, but yeah, it's a lot of yelling, and they try to break you down. You don't.
And why do they do that? Why do
they can build you back up and build your confidence?
So they break your confidence to build your confidence?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that seem?
Well,
I mean, I'm no psychologist, but what?
Yeah. I'm thinking I knew everything. I was like, this is going to be a cakewalk and all that. And they showed me and they pushed me so it wasn't a cakewalk, and being from the Midwest, what was on my mind, and I would say it sometimes, was not a good thing to do in the military. You do what you're told and don't ask. So why? There's no such thing as a why. And,
but there were females who were, what are they?
The company commanders.
Yeah. They were females?
Yeah.
So imagine their journey.
Yeah.
Because there were a whole
we
other
did have
generation.
one male and we had 2 females. So, yeah.
I mean, they had to be really badass to get through at their time, right?
Right.
Because they were.
Yeah, the one was in training. She was a black female too, on top of it. The one that was in training. And then I had the other 2. So, so boot camp was fun. It was interesting. But
how long does it last?
Oh gosh. I want to say it was like 12 weeks.
Did you ever want to quit, or did you think I'm doing the right thing?
I mean, yeah, there's always a time with anything you do in life, like, why did I do this, or why am I here? And but I had a core group of girls that we kind of would coach each other, coach each other on, and then you'd get the mail items and stuff from your family and everything, and I knew I was gonna land up doing fun stuff eventually, and my goal was to join the Navy and see the world. So I knew that was kind of the easy part, the boot camp part was. But you're funny about being there, going in such good shape when I went there. The only thing I had to do was cut my hair. Now they don't make you cut your hair. So that was probably the most traumatic thing for me, was to go in and have my hair cut like short. And my parents at graduation was the first time they saw any pictures because there was no internet. There's nothing to follow. Now they have like these Facebook pages and you can follow the companies or platoons or whichever service you're in. They're called something different. But so there was none of that. So the first time they saw me, my dad didn't even recognize me. I go walking by him. He's like, "You have a neck," because I had shoulders and I lost so much weight in boot camp that my dad, I walked right by him. He was always so used to me being thicker and bigger and all that. And I was skinny. And he was just like, "What in the world happened here?" He's like, "Did they not feed you?" It was like, "Oh, no, it was all that running." So, yeah. And after that, I went off to Tennessee to what they call your A school, what you're going to do in the military. And that's where I met my husband, actually. I've been married 34 years.
Good for
this
you.
year. I know. We've got like the double whammy, being married in the military, and he's a deputy sheriff for St. Johns County. And, it's such a hard lifestyle. And we've surpassed the ratio of divorce in that.
I imagine it would be really high, the stress levels and the schedules and just
because I was deployed a lot, where he really wasn't. So yeah, I met him on a dare. So, when you get to your A school, they make you do like galley duty, or luckily I got to go to the pool too and work there. But he was walking in, I was like, "Man, that dude's good looking." And so, like, one of the petty officers that had been there for a couple years, first class, said, "Well, I dare you to ask him out." Of course. Well, what do I get out of it? I'm like, I want to say, what do I get? Because I'll give you a night off. Because for that 2 weeks, you're not supposed to have any time off. You're there working, and so he kind of came up. I asked him out, and
he said yes.
Yeah, I don't know if he's rethinking that decision. Yeah, it was actually, because you got to remember, on all these bases, I mean, there is like one woman for every 10, 15 men, and you got one here asking you out, who, mind you, is a Southern, grew up in South Carolina in Myrtle Beach, the Myrtle's Inlet. He grew up there, and to have a woman being that forward and asking you out, of course, I don't know if he did it out of fear or whatever. So
he's probably thinking, what are going to be the repercussions if I don't do this? Like, something's going to...
This crazy woman
this is a trap.
And he was in the Marine Corps. So that both services, obviously, I love always to say that the Navy, the Marine is a division in the Navy. Remind him of that. And so then we went out, and now we are 34 years later, coming up on our anniversary. So
and two kids, is that right?
No, just one.
One.
Okay. Yeah, one's enough. One's enough. Love him to death. He's a handful. And then after that, since I went to the aircrew side of the house.
What does that mean?
So I was going to be on airplanes, not knowing exactly what I was doing yet. Where were you going to be? This is still the path of EOD, rescue swimmer. It was still we're introducing women in the Navy to do this. So we're going to send you off to aircrew school, which is in Pensacola, Florida. And that's where the Navy pilots go to. They go there in Corpus Christi. And our aircrew school training there, it's like a land survival water training school. That's like more of the movie with Richard Gere, all that kind of training, that water training.
So did you still think, because of your background, that was not going to be that difficult, or did you think that this?
Yeah, I still think this is smooth sailing. This is easy. All I got to do.
Because I mean, I would think that.
Yeah, right? And then I get there and I
throw
see
me in water,
people being washed out, and then I was like, and then being washed out from one class to the next class. So I would have these people coming in my class that were in the class before me. I was like, oh gosh, all right, this is starting to get hard. There's actually people are getting pushed back to classes because they're not making it as they go. And this is where the Midwestern comes in. They take us out. I'm like halfway through aircrew school, still not knowing the path, the EOD path. And I was thrown into the Gulf of Mexico. You get thrown in there off of a boat, and a helicopter comes and picks you up. And I found out what a jellyfish was.
Yeah. Because in pools, you don't know that.
No. And swimming in the ocean was a lot different.
Yes, it is.
Ever, because I can't
swim.
Never been
well
in the ocean.
I'm not a good ocean swimmer.
Never been in the ocean. I've been in Lake Michigan, which that's probably not a good idea.
But still, you don't have gators. You don't have jellyfish. You don't.
You don't have any wildlife there. You might get a lake perch come by you.
Yeah.
But I think that was my first moment of fear. and the helicopter's trying to come pick you up, and I'm swimming away, and they're like yelling at me. And so they pull you up, and they're yelling at me, and with the rotors going, I'm like, there was these plastic bags in the water. I'm trying to explain. I'm like in fear at this point. I'm like, what in the world? And they just laugh at you, put a sucker in your mouth, they spin you around, they drop you back down. Now the boat comes by and you got to grab onto them and get in the boat. And I'm back, you're back on land. And I was like, that was insane. But now they start showing you videos of sharks. And I was like, can we rethink this? I was like, there's sharks out there? Not thinking, to me, sharks are, they're in the middle of the ocean, not in those areas, so I was kind of rethinking that. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go this path.
Can you change though?
Yeah, at that point, that's still like a path of where you want to go. And
so you have control.
You still have a little bit of control, especially those were new programs they were introducing, and they were going to see if women would even be introduced to it.
Okay, but just knowing your background and knowing you, I would also think that you'd be thinking, I'm not going to be the one that doesn't do this.
Yeah.
Like you had such a competitive streak.
Yeah, but I didn't really know it was a big deal then. I didn't realize that was the beginning stages. I didn't realize that till like a year later. That once I got through aircrew school and I was a loadmaster, I think that's when it kind of all came together. That I was making new strides for women in the Navy. At that point, there was, I don't know, only a handful of female loadmasters.
And what's a loadmaster? What's that
So
mean?
they do the weight and the balance of the airplane to make sure it can take off and land safely. So everything was done, you got to be good at math. Everything was done by hand, by calculation. A lot of times I tell people, if you ever watch old movies and you see the plane open in the back and the person tethered to it and pushing stuff out, that's kind of the loadmaster and his crew. That's what they're responsible for, getting cargo around, to the troops.
But that's different than using your swim background for something.
Right, but you have to go through aircrew school to even be a loadmaster, to be on a flight crew. You have to go through aircrew school.
So when you're in the military, maybe, I don't know if it's different now, but when you were in the military, do you have to, is it like choosing a major? Do you have to choose a path? Because how do you really know what any of it is?
Well, they tell you take what's called an ASVAB. It's kind of an aptitude test of what you're good at. And then they're like, here's your options.
And do they explain them to you?
Recruiters? Recruiters, they're there for themselves. They're like car salesmen. They got to get you in. They got to get their numbers. So they may withhold some information sometimes, I think. Later when I saw my recruiter, I'm like, hey, I saw him. Like, we crossed paths in the Navy.
Is it throughout the process that you have some agency over what you do, or is it?
No, usually not. Usually decide right away where you're going to go. But once you get through aircrew school, it kind of opens up options of different things that are available to you, because you got to find out what aircraft you're going to be on. You can be on helicopters, you can be on cargo planes, and then women still weren't allowed in the military or on deployment on ships at that point yet. So, there was still opportunities coming open, but they weren't there quite yet at that point.
So you were a loadmaster.
Yeah, I remember my first time. I think when it hit me, we were support teams for the even SEAL teams. So 2, 4, and 6. They're all out of Virginia, but I was in a fixed wing squadron on the East Coast here at Jacksonville, and we would go and get their equipment and move people around. But that was the first time it hit me. It was when I remember we were going into Virginia and we were moving a SEAL Team 6, and I walked into the I just lost the name of it. I walked inside the hangar.
You can tell me anything because I won't know the
difference.
difference.
I walked inside the hangar to get this, and the person just looked at me and they're like, "We'll wait till the loadmaster gets here."
Oh.
And so I stood there for a minute and I kind of looked behind me both ways, and your name tag says loadmaster. I kind of looked down. I go, "Well, I'm here and it's time to go." So now I'm already angry. That I think that was in my first time in my life I was really ever discriminated against.
Well, I was going to ask you, being kind of a trailblazer as a female, how that went.
Yeah.
If you did have a lot of that.
Yeah, that was probably the first time there that was like someone discriminating against me just because I was a female. Like,
and was that a SEAL team member or no?
Yeah, it was their civilian. It wasn't that one of the team members.
Okay,
yeah,
because I would think SEAL team members would be so highly driven and competitive, and I don't know, but so a civilian did that. I mean,
so not a civilian. They're military, but they're support teams.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not a SEAL. They're the support teams. But we get it. So we're out there and we're waiting on the cargo to get over there, and I'm checking it all. And you got to be really careful of how you put the cargo on the airplane. You can't have all this ammunition or a lot of metal up in the front. I'm sure technology has changed them, but you couldn't have anything magnetized right behind the pilot.
Seems like a great use for AI right now.
Yeah,
to figure out how to do all that.
Yeah, and when he was bringing the cargo over, so he was probably the junior SEAL team guy, because I mean, who else is going to? The senior guys aren't going to do it. So he's coming over, and I said, "Well, what's in there?" And he's like, "I can't tell you." And I'm like, "I need to know what's in this." I'm looking at the manifest, and it's kind of blank. And he's like, "You're not allowed to know." And I was like, "Well, I guess this isn't going on the airplane." I'm like, now it's a SEAL. Now I'm thinking, okay, we're not doing this. I'm already angry from your person inside, and now I'm out here, and you think that I'm putting something on my airplane that's gonna possibly harm my crew and your team.
Yeah, and you also don't. I mean, yeah, of course you'd have to know. Do you have rank to pull like that? Are you able to do that? Are you able to say
back then I was only an E4, so that's like when you're in the Navy, you've got like 3 little stripes. You got 1 green, 2 green, 3 green stripes for the air side, and then so I just became a petty officer. So I don't really have a whole lot of rank. It's not like you get those senior chiefs and the master chiefs. Those guys are scary.
A friend of mine is a master chief.
Yeah.
I don't know. You always are.
Yeah. A master chief walks in the room. That's lots of respect right there. Yeah. When the one of master chief comes in, lots of respect goes there. Chief, senior chief, master chief, all of them, lots of respect. I mean, they're at the pillar. They meet the top.
My neighbor used to be actually an admiral.
Yeah. Ooh. But yeah, so we kind of went rounds, and then a couple other team members would come out, and they're like, "No, you've got to tell her what's on there," because I was like, "That one's not going, and we can't load anything because it has to go in a certain way, into the aircraft because of weight, So if I think back now, everyone's like, if you weren't a cop, what would you have done? If I would have thought back now and saw myself and could go back to that day, I would have went to work for like FedEx or UPS. And then when Amazon came along, I could have wrote my own ticket because they needed those people to do that.
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing I'd ever change in my life, because I love aviation. I love to go to St. Augustine Airport. I love to eat there, just to watch the planes. I like to, when I go by, sometimes I'll stop. I've always loved aviation, which is kind of weird. I never got into wanting to be a pilot or anything, but I've always thought planes were the coolest things. So if I could go back and not become a police officer and gone that path, I should have went that one. I could have definitely wrote my own ticket.
Well, you wrote your own ticket as a police officer.
I did, but we're talking about I joined the Navy to see the world. The first duty station they gave me was Detroit, Michigan.
Which in the Midwest is the armpit, right?
The armpit of the earth.
Yes.
But I was never there. I was always deployed. Yeah, there was an Air National Guard base up there called Selfridge Air National Guard, right on the other side of downtown Detroit.
So, oh, boy.
Yeah. So I was only there for a year because my husband and I ended up getting married. So I took somebody's orders and moved to Florida.
So you said you were deployed a lot. Where were you deployed to?
Ooh, it's always easier for me to say the places I didn't get to go that I wish I would have gone was Australia. I mean, I was so fortunate. I got to go all around the world and support whatever mission was happening in that area at the time.
Were you often supporting SEAL teams?
Yeah, a lot, because
that had to be.
They are nothing like they are on TV. I was very disappointed. I was like, I remember the first team I met, I'm like, okay, you guys don't look like the guys on TV. I mean, they're normal looking guys.
I could do this.
I was like, normal looking guys. Yes, they had some of their door knockers, the big guys, but all of them seemed so normal. And I was so disappointed. And I think that's my first reality, is nothing you see on TV is real. I mean, I was taller than a lot of them, and it's.
But still, the missions that you were supporting, you must have looked. Did you know when you were doing those, when you were working with them? Do you have any idea what their mission is going to be in your role?
Yeah, you knew a lot of where they're going, not exactly what they were doing, because the way that SEPTOM would give you the your missions, it would be a little bit more coded with them, where most of them, like, okay, you're taking, you're moving this crew over to here, and it would have all the information and all this. And when you get some of their information, it would be very short. So we're like, oh, we're doing one of those. And then when you go pick them up, it was always kind of cool because you drop them off with all this stuff, and then you came back and they didn't have it anymore. I'm like, ooh. It's like, I wonder what they did.
Yeah. That's what I was asking for, is just the types of support missions that the support that you gave those missions. You must look back and go, I loaded that.
Yeah, you do, and sometimes you don't know, and you look back at it all, and some of the regrets I have. I was young. I was 19, when I joined, and I really fully didn't take advantage of, taking it all in. You're part of this. You're doing this. You're doing this. It was kind of just a job, and where are we going next? Oh, we're going to Sicily. Cool. And not just really
But that's youth.
Yeah, it is youth. Yeah. I look back now and I'm like, God, I wish I would have gone and saw this when I was in Greece, or I wish I would have done this when I was in Egypt. It was more then. It was for me back then. It was about shopping. And since I wasn't drinking age, but I was over there, it was about going out.
Yeah. Well, I told you before, I feel like you and I could go have drinks at Trade Winds, and you would be so much fun.
That was always the next thing. I was like, I can go out drinking, and trying all things. But yeah, it was always interesting.
Were you in some war zones too?
Well, since I was on that, when I moved to Florida, I was on a C-9 now, so it's not an airplane that can get out of the way or defend itself. So a lot of the times we would fly across combat zones, and it was lights off, windows closed, and then I would get combat pay, but we were more supporting missions. The most important thing, the medical and mail. Man, when we would do mail runs, and I always wondered how when I became adult, how the U.S. mail would lose stuff, because it was really hard to do mail runs in the Navy. I mean, you would get the bag and sign. I mean, it was like signing your life away when you were taking the mail to bring it over to the troops. And I'm thinking, I can't get mail from like my mom in Illinois to Florida. I was like, it was really hard to get mail from one place to the other when I was in there. I mean, these bags were all metal tied, and it was fun at the same time, because you would bring in, when the squadrons would be coming to get the mail, they would be so excited.
Yeah.
When you would land in these countries and you're calling off the squadrons and they're coming up to get their mail.
Yeah.
And they're just excited because it's
a lifeline.
Yeah, it's taken us a week to get it to them, for one. They knew mail would come, but they just never know when we would show up with it. So it always depends on where we were going.
But it is truly a lifeline in the military.
Yeah.
It's not just fun, it's a lifeline.
Back then, too. No cell phones.
Yeah, no email, nothing. That's the only way.
And I mean, to call home, remember, you had to have like a prepaid cell phone card or something, and it cost a lot of money. Yeah. I remember my husband would call me when he would be at work at night. He worked on F-18s at Cecil, and if I would be overseas, he would call me, and I would go to the squadrons because it would be cheaper to use the military phones to call from base to base. And that was like my only contact with them, Yeah.
And so having... how often were you actually together? Right?
So my retirement scares me.
Well, I get that, because my husband used to travel all the time for work, and he was in a global position. And now, when he left, I was like, "Oh boy!"
Yeah, I just recently,
this is challenging.
Before I retired recently, this was the most time we had together, because he was on the patrol.
I totally get that.
He's on the Marine unit with the sheriff's office, and he works every other weekend. So I have every other weekend to myself. So that was the most we've ever been together until recently. But yeah, I would deploy. My deployments were usually 2 weeks at a time. I didn't go on long deployments. We would take the plane and run around the world and do a few things and come back. It was that type of thing. Or you're at NAS Jackson, the air show's coming. Okay, you need to take the planes and leave. So we would go to Key West, or we'd go to like New Orleans. We would have to stay local in case there was any missions that came up. But I knew my squadron was just supposed to have a reunion, and I knew something must have happened, because the reunion got canceled a week before everything happened over in Israel and all that. Like the week before. I mean, this reunion was being like planned, and then week before they were doing the numbers, and it was probably like 3 days before, like, due to mission compliance, we're canceling the reunion. I was like, wow, something's going on, because they have some very large planes up there for cargo transport. So
That's what I mean.
Definitely.
I picture what you did in your career. You must be able to look back and go, yeah, I supported that.
Yeah, I remember when Chief Looters, he was a sergeant at the time when I was getting ready to get hired here at the PD. I remember him calling me, and I was like, well, he's like, can you come in next week for an interview? I'm like, well, I'm on my way to Hawaii, and I'll be out there for 2 weeks. And he's like, because I stayed in the reserves when I first got out because I was still like, okay, what am I going to do? I went to the police academy. That was kind of on a whim too. That wasn't a dream or anything. That was another whim of my life.
Why not do this?
Right, why not do this? I had a friend going through the police academy. Like, that sounds like fun. I still knew I wasn't an office person. But I remember him going, okay. And he goes, well, what about the following week? I'm like, well, we're going to, when he called originally, I was in Cuba with Gloria Estefan. They were doing a show down there for the people that were trying to come over for the detainees and all that. So we picked up Gloria Estefan in Miami. We took her down to Cuba. So then when I called him, he goes, and why do you want to do this job with us? Because I was like, okay, can we do it the following week? He's like, I remember him going, oh my God. He was like, this woman's all around the world and she wants to come work at the St. Augustine Police Department.
Well, let's talk about that because we're going to run out of time. I have so much I want to talk about with you. I feel like I could do 3 or 4 episodes with you. So how did you transition then into the SAPD?
Well, this is 1995, and it was very competitive back then to get a job in law enforcement anywhere. So I was applying everywhere local. My husband was still in the Marine Corps, so I was applying all over the place. And I wanted to go to the sheriff's office. And there was a wise man back then, Captain Newmans, when he retired. He's like, don't put all your eggs in the basket. You can always change your mind and go somewhere else. It's not the military anymore. You're not stuck in one place. So SAPD was the first one to call. Clay County, it was going back and forth. Actually, the guy who did my polygraph for St. Augustine was the same one was doing it for Clay County. He's like, okay, we're not doing this twice. We're just going to use the same one. And they called first. So that's how it kind of happened.
In 95.
In 1995, yeah.
And what was your first role?
Just patrol, I was just telling my son this. He just finished the fire academy. He just applied with St. John's Fire. I said, you'll never forget your first call. And we were just talking about this before I went on vacation last week. He's like, what was yours? I said, they said my number. Just remember, I'm just pulling out of the police department. Now, back then, there was a stop sign in front of the police department. I mean, you could go anywhere, and there was, and where the light is now. Yeah. I couldn't imagine trying to get out of anywhere with a stop sign. So I remember sitting at the stop sign next to the police department waiting for the traffic on King Street, the 3 cars to go or whatever it was. Yeah. And it was a wires down. I was so excited. I was like, what? Wires down. Like the wires came down from cable or phone.
Oh, literally whatever. Wires down.
Wires down. First call. And I was very excited because now I know the fire department's coming. I don't have to do anything. I got the fire department. And so I always laughed. That was my first call, especially with him going to the fire service. I go, I get to block the street. And let the fire department decide, is it live wire? What would we do? So that was my first thing in 95. And then we had the motor. So I did, I did the normal stuff. I did patrol.
And people don't realize how quiet St. Augustine was.
Oh my God, it was so quiet. St. Johns County was so quiet.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of dirt roads with no lights.
I can remember the only thing open was the 511 on Anastasia.
Yep.
Was the only thing open, and the sheriff's office would call and ask us what kind of Slurpees they had. Because they would want Slurpees here at the comm center, so the girls would want, mostly girls, because there are mostly girls in that comm center, because it's a really hard job for the communications operators. But they would call our dispatchers, and they'd be like, hey, because there's no phones, they can't, they don't want to ask on the radio. So the comm center would want you to call them, and you would pull up to a payphone and give them the last 4 numbers, because they knew it was 824. So they would call you, and they're like, hey, they want to know what kind of Slurpees there are over there. So you would go call them back, tell them what kind there were, and then you would deliver Slurpees to them. I mean, and everything closed during the week by like 10. And then on the weekends, the bars back then, they closed at midnight.
Yeah. In September, there was nobody here. October, there was nobody here.
So, we were so bored just chasing each other around, just finding something to do. The troopers would even come off the interstate because they would be bored. Like come on to US 1, like, what are you guys doing? We're like, nothing. What are you?
So what a change from the time you came into SAPD until you were, I remember you as being assistant chief, right? Or
no, I was commander.
And then you went to chief?
Yes, I jumped the.
Okay, I thought you were assistant chief.
No,
I'm
I
sorry,
never
because I
went to
remember dealing with you before you were the chief
Yeah.
from my downtown stuff. But what a difference in just the whole what SAPD had to deal with and the magnitude of stuff and the severity of stuff. And
I was speaking to a commissioner a couple of years ago when he decided to run for commission, and he asked me what the biggest change was. I said, it's our community policing is what's suffered. I said, you live in North City. I said, you used to see us come in the neighborhoods. We used to go to lemonade stands. We used to be able to go everywhere. I said, but now we've got all the apartments and we've got all the hotels. I said, so the population has doubled for us in the North City especially, but the amount of officers haven't. So they're busy dealing with the tourist issues and the other issues going on, everyday issues.
We didn't have the homeless back then.
Yeah, we didn't have the homeless nearly. We always had our one or two.
Yeah.
But they grew up here.
Yeah.
And usually took them to their aunt's house or, to a family member's house for the night. I said, so that was probably when he was kind of talking about change. I said, that's why you don't see us just driving around a neighborhood anymore. And we just don't have time anymore. It's just the way that the society has changed and the population. They're keeping us busy now.
What are some of the dumb crime stories that you have? There have to be where you're thinking like, what a dumbass. Like, how is this ever going to work?
Yeah. I remember I was just I think I was a patrolman. I don't think I was a sergeant yet, but a guy called. He was staying at one of the sleazy motels on San Marco, and he called to report that we had hookers walking the streets back then. We did. That the hooker stole his money and didn't perform the deed that he paid for. So you're standing there looking at him like, so you're reporting a crime that you've committed, prostitution. You're complaining. I go, we could go find her and charge her, but we're going to charge you too. So you might want to just chalk this one up. It's just sometimes, because most of ours are alcohol related, especially with being a tourist community. You just, whenever there's some Halloween and stuff, you're like, when did that seem like that was a good idea that I was going to climb into the fort and now I can't get out? Like, you scaled the walls and you're in the fort. You've trespassed on federal property, and they have no clue. They're like, but I'm stuck.
Can you come get me?
Yeah. And when the cars changes, people would lock themselves in cars and couldn't figure out how to get out of cars and, headlights. But for me, the hardest thing was the wildlife. The wildlife calls. I had a pelican. One of my favorite stories was with, I just lost his name, city manager.
John?
Yeah, before John.
Bill
Harris, yes, thank you. A pelican got stuck on top of the Bridge of Lions. His feet were in the grates. And so traffic stopped. And it's raining. Now, remember back then, we didn't have the walls.
Yeah.
I could drive up halfway on there and be able to get up there. And I got out, and this pelican is he's stuck there, and his wings are going. So, I'm like, okay, I can go. Oh, yeah. If your cable's out, we get a call. I can go nudge it, what can happen? I can go nudge it out of there where it is, I'm in my raincoat, it's raining sideways. And that bird, it was like smack. I was like, oh. And our Bill Harris was sitting there in his Bronco. And he rolls down the window and yells at me. He's like the first car. I walk over there and he's handing me a towel. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what do you want me to do with that? And he goes, throw the towel over its head, grab its beak,
wrap it up or something. Yep.
And I go, and then what? He goes, put it in your car. I'm like, you want me to put a bird in my car
that goes like this?
Yeah. I looked at him and I remember looking at him going, I am from Chicago. I go, that bird tried to eat me. I said, the biggest, and I used the F-bomb word, I've ever seen is a pigeon. And he goes,
it's going in your car, Bill.
He goes, well, you want me to help you? And I opened his door for him. And I remember getting out. He had his tie on. And that joker went over, he picked up, and then he put it in the tower. And he goes, you're welcome. I'm like, now what do I do? So, Hawk is on the way. So this lady shows up I go back down the bridge. This lady shows up with a cat carrier, and her kid. So I put her kid in the front seat with me and her in this cage in the back seat. We go back up there and she goes into the tower. And I remember it was the Southwest Tower. She's in there And the kid looks at me and she goes, my mom's been gone a while. And I'm like, yeah, she sure has. I'm going back to this bird trying to eat me. She's on her own, and she comes out and she goes, wow, that's one of the meanest ones I've ever met. I'm like, I know. I tried to eat me. So I think the wildlife was, and now it's mating season for the manatee. And I had a manatee call from a bed and breakfast down on South Marine. And one of our local police officers that grew up here who understood what was going on, because I'm like, we need FWC. I think it's injured. He started asking me a lot of questions. And then I looked at the guests and go, apparently they're doing the deed. We should leave them alone.
Know that.
I didn't know. They looked stuck. They looked stuck on the water. I was just, so I think for me it was, I was never, the crime stuff seemed easy to me. It was always those little things that always kind of made me go, what, an alligator we thought it got loose from the alligator farm. It's like holding on to one of the police cars. And so, we call, gosh darn it, who owns the alligator farm? Starts with a D. Drysdale, yeah. And it goes, oh, it's not one of ours. I'm like, wait, God, how do you know
How do you know that?
They're tagged. But they took it to put it somewhere safe till FWC can come the next day to move it. And I'm like, somebody's got to come in. And snake calls, forget it. I was like, I'd be like, Celestine, I'm over here doing this. I'm not going to a snake call. You're on your own with those. But yeah, the wildlife calls were always probably the most challenging ones for me, which sound funny because I could talk my way out of anything.
But you could probably handle, let's see, a deer. You could handle, what do we have in the Midwest? Deer. We had a lot of deer.
Yeah, we had a lot of deer, but they were real deer. Not the size of like a Great Dane, like they are here.
Yeah.
They were deer up there. But yeah, those were always probably the most challenging thing because I could talk my way out of getting into a bar fight or anything like that, or getting people to do something. I could usually talk people into doing it. I always had the philosophy, even when I became chief, I'll ask you, I'll tell you, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're not going to sit here all day and play jury on the side of the road. Or in a bar.
That's also a Midwestern thing. Like, we're just going to, come on, we got to get this done.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you nicely, and then I'm going to tell you, and then, no, we're going to go. And because nothing good is going to happen. Nothing good happens after midnight. Nothing good is going to happen if we stand here and go back and forth. So just get it over and move on. But for me, always the challenging thing were the animal calls. Crazy thing.
I can see that.
I
can totally see that.
Coworkers jump on alligators and they carry duct tape in their car. I'm like, why do you have duct tape?
That's people who live here, though, who grew up here.
Just picked it up. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fun.
Yeah, that's a different mindset. People who lived here their whole lives. So, that's not me.
No. Nope.
So we got to fast forward because we're going to run out of time, and I really want to talk about you. You set history. You became the first female police chief in St. Augustine.
That's Barry's fault. Barry was my training officer. We were supposed to retire together. We had this plan.
Well, he's still not retired.
I know. But we had this plan. I was going to retire as a commander. He was going to retire as the chief. We were going to do this big party because we started together. We were going to end together. And it was going to be all this. And he decides to leave, which I understand. It was a lot of headaches for him. He put up with a lot. So, so that was kind of was not planned. Another thing not planned in my life. So first, not going to the military, not becoming a police officer, and definitely not becoming chief was never a plan. But it came to, who do you want to work for? Who do you want to work with? So I had to start making those hard decisions. Do you want somebody to come in from the outside, or you look at some of your coworkers and be like, can I work for him? Yes, no, yes, no. So it kind of came down to that. So when I put in for it, and when Mr. Regan offered me the job, I actually challenged him. I said, you're not doing this so you can say I made the first female chief. I did this. And I go, because if I find out that's the reason I'm getting this position over anybody else that put in for it, it's
like reverse discrimination.
Yeah. I already had 25 years almost. I was very close to being able to retire. So I was like, I think I was like at 23, 24 years at that point. And part of my plan that Barry wrote. And I challenged him, and he actually took it on. He said, I'll tell you why I picked you. And he was able to give me all the reasons. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you why I didn't pick these other people, but I'm going to tell you why I picked you. And so then I was good with it. And then it came up to dealing with the media. So one of the first phone calls I made was to Michaux Cook, because I've always admired her and looked up to her and Teresa Mears, who was retired from the sheriff's offices, as the real trailblazers. They were the local ones that I looked up to and saw how they did it, and I wanted to be like them. And I remember calling Michelle Cook the day I was going to have to deal with the media the first day, because that was also Women History Month in March. So it was both. You had Women History and then this on top of it. And I remember texting her, "Can you call me when you get a chance?" The phone rang immediately. Another reason why I looked up to her. Rang immediately. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I'm sitting in the plaza after my morning walk. And I said, "Hey, I could see the media today." And she goes, "Oh, you want to know how do you deal with the question?" I go, "The question. So how does it feel to be the first female chief?" Because she did that. I mean, she did that she left JSO. She was number 2 or 3 there. She went over to Atlantic Beach, was the chief there, and now she's being a sheriff. So she was, and she's small. So she was always having that put in front of her. And she's like, "You've earned this." And she kind of was like, "Tell me all the things you've done." And she's like, "So did you get there because you're a woman, or did you get there because you did all that stuff?" I was like,
Yeah, I feel like, I've thought about it as I interview people that are trailblazers, like, they're just really badass women. On this show, I feel like women don't naturally claim their power.
Right.
And
We
that's
don't
one thing I
brag.
really love about Cynthia Garris is
Yeah.
she's not afraid to do that. I applaud her for that. I look up to her for that. She's like, "No, I'm claiming it."
Yeah.
But I think that women just still, it's not our instinct to do that.
No, just get the work done. I was never a bragger or anything. But when she had me lay it all out, I was like, "Wow, I did all that."
Yeah, because men, this is not a criticism of men, but men do claim that a little bit.
It's a competition
more
with them. I can remember being on calls and, I could get somebody settled down. I remember it was back when, before it was Casa Reina, when it was the Legion, got this guy settled down. He was just ready to tear the place up. And it was like as soon as one of the guys came in, everything went right back up. I'm like, "Oh God, we're right back here." So there's a competition where I don't think we claim enough, or even though I was always competitive, I was always good with.
I get that because I grew up as an athlete too, but it's just not. I don't know. You feel like I can't do that. That would be rude. I can't do that. It's sort of just in the back of your mind as a female. Maybe not everyone, but I think a lot of people do have that. So I'm not going to ask you about that particular question, but I do want to ask you before we close, and I wish we could talk more about you being the first female chief, but what would you say to little girls now who might think that they can't do something? What would you say?
Even when I go and speak at the academies, or like I was telling you before, I was at the high school speaking back in Illinois, that you got to step up and do the scary stuff, and you're going to fail, and don't be afraid of failing. You're going to get it. You're going to get it wrong, but try again and again, and just keep trying. If it's something you want to do, that just go after it and do it, and don't let anyone tell you no. But don't be afraid to fail and do it wrong, and then be scared to try it again. That was me on motors. I fell a lot because I was a motor officer here too. Fell a lot, and wasn't got right back up and did it again and again. But did I do things wrong in my career? Yeah. And I learned from them, I hope. Otherwise, then, I would do things wrong. Like, yeah, we messed that up. We should have did it this way. Or, hey, we did it right, and this is how we did it.
I almost think sometimes you learn more from failure than
Absolutely.
you do from not failing.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I think that's huge, because you don't want to do that again. You don't want to look bad, and you want to succeed. And especially when you're serving the public the way we do, you're serving somebody and helping them. So if you fail them, then it's like a double failure.
And I think grit is so underrated. I think grit is so important to just accomplishing things in life. It's not about who's the smartest. It's not about who's the most popular. It's about that freaking grit.
You got to surround yourself with those people.
Yeah.
I found you figure out who's good at what. Who you surround
yourself with is so important.
I'm like, you're good at this, you're good at that. I wasn't really good at white papers. I'd rather get up, speak, unscripted and do stuff like that. But you want me to do a research paper? I had people that were good at that, and I knew they were good at that. So, and they didn't like doing the public speaking or something like that. So you find those people and be like, you know what? You're good at this. And then you give them all the tools to make them better at it. The schooling, the classes, whatever they need to make them better at that, to help you, because, in a community like St. Augustine, it's still small. You're not going to succeed unless we do it together.
Well, we're running out of time, but I have one last question for you. How does it feel to you to have set history?
I really don't think of it that way. It's really,
But you have.
I know. When I went to the high school and there's a plaque on me in Illinois on the wall, I'm like, I guess it's big, but I enjoyed it. So I didn't look at it as a job or, I just enjoyed making a difference in, St. Augustine and the city and hopefully my department and for future generations. I really enjoyed it. So I guess it really hasn't said that it was like, okay, you did this. I'm like, okay.
But you will always be part of the history of St. Augustine.
Crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. I'll give you that. Thank you. It is cool.
I mean, it's super cool. I'm not setting history in anything. Maybe being the biggest pain in the ass. I don't know.
But there'll be more females coming. There's a lot of great officers there.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's a lot of good up and coming officers. There'll be more.
That's the cool thing about a lot of younger women today is they just don't realize that they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Or can't do something, I should say. Where when we were growing up, there was a lot of, you can't do that as a female.
Yeah.
Or,
Yep.
Now they're like, I want to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to go back in that Marine Corps office going, hey, do I still have to do that desk job?
You will. Watch what I've done.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of time. I feel like I could talk to you forever. I knew you'd be so much fun. And there's so much about your story that we didn't touch on, so I apologize to the listeners and viewers because I really I want to applaud the women who have made history here, and you are one of them.
Thank you.
So thank you for giving me time today to come on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anytime.
So thank you for tuning in today. This was the St. Augustine Chronicles with history making former SAPD Chief Jen Michaux. Thanks for joining us.